I want to speak with you today about one of the significant challenges facing our society, why the challenge should be important to the Church of Jesus Christ, and a little bit about how First Pres is going to lean into addressing it in the days ahead. Loneliness and isolation are a root cause and contributor to many of the epidemics we currently face. From depression and anxiety to alcohol and drug addiction, violence and social polarization. U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy this year identified loneliness and isolation as one of the most pressing health crises in the American society today. There are a number of both historical and contemporary reasons for why our culture has arrived at this point. But the reality is, there are many people in Glen Ellyn and our surrounding communities that live very highly calendared lives and yet lack a sense of authentic connection to others. It's common for many in our communities to have a high number of social relationships and yet still long for a community where they can be who they are, where they can risk sharing personal struggles and imperfections, where they can trust people, and where people encourage and support them. Many find that their relationships in the western suburbs have a lack of authenticity, relational maturity, kindness, and humility. It's a frequent experience in our setting to be surrounded by people and yet feel deeply alone. As the New Testament describes what our relationships with one another should look like, it paints a very different kind of picture. The New Testament describes relationships of authenticity and vulnerability, of tangible care and support, relationships of depth and intentionality. The kind of relationships that are proscribed in the Bible are exactly the kinds of relationships that all the societal research tells us our communities urgently lack and desperately need. As a part of the All In initiative, First Presbyterian Church is leaning into discovering how we can be a blessing to one another and to the broader community by creating deep and wide ministries focused on fostering and nurturing just these kinds of relationships. For the time being, we're calling this new ministry initiative Identifiable Communities. And here are a few folks involved in the leadership of the new initiative to share more about it.
First Pres has a rich history of forming substantive relationships that are Christ-centered, relationships that are both safe and accepting. Both are challenging and encouraging at the same time, encouraging one another as we grow towards Jesus Christ.
The Identifiable Communities Initiative exists to create a systematized approach in our congregation for people to become part of an authentic community. A community they can move into with confidence, supported by trained leaders and identified curriculum. We anticipate that these Christ-centered identifiable communities will be supported by a newly created staff position who will be responsible for recruiting, training, and supporting the leaders of these identifiable communities.
We are just beginning to lay the groundwork of this exciting new ministry initiative, and we want to invite you to learn more about it and to learn how you can help make it a success. We are eager to hear your input and ideas about how First Presbyterian Church can be a blessing to the broader community in addressing this need.
To that end, I want to invite you to do two things. The first is to join us in January for our Sunday morning sermon series entitled Cultivating Christian Community. In this series, we will take a deep look at both how we have arrived at this crisis in our society and practical steps we can take that will make a difference, both for us and for others. The Bible teaches us so much about how we can be helpful in addressing this crisis. And the second invitation is to join us on Sunday morning, January 28th, for an information and participation session about the Identifiable Communities New Ministry Initiative. At this session, we will hear about the impact that authentic, Christ-centered relationships can make in someone's life and how you can join in the work of the leadership team. As a pastor in this community, I have seen firsthand the incredible impact of meaningful community. I've seen it impact marriages, I've seen it carry people through seasons of grief, and serve as a powerful catalyst for personal growth. I want to invite you to be a part of the solution at First Presbyterian Church.